In the last couple months, Big Cat Rescue has become home to 6 new servals. Servals are a small species of cat native to Africa, which are unfortunately very popular exotic pets. Kricket the serval was born in 2001, and she was kept as a pet. But when her owners divorced, the wife decided she didn't have time for her anymore and started looking for a new home for her. We agreed to rescue Kricket and began preparing a lakeside enclosure for her with lots of places to hide and fun things to explore. She'd just spent the last 10 years living indoors, so we wanted to make her adjustment to life outside as stress-free and enjoyable as possible. Her owner was willing to contract with us to never again own an exotic cat as a pet, so Kricket made the trip from Virginia to Florida. We were at the airport to pick her up, and Joseph the lion gave Kricket a roaring welcome to the sanctuary. Exotic cats kept as pets are often fed improper diets, resulting in serious health problems. Whatever Kricket's diet was, it's obviously taken a toll on the little serval. Her back and rear legs show signs of stunted development, and her tail is unusually curled, which is most likely the result of a past injury, inbreeding, and diet. While Kricket was still under quarantine and settling in to her new environment, we received another call from a lady in New York. The lady was battling cancer. Her sister ran off, leaving her 3 children, and her home was in foreclosure. She also had 5 servals living in her basement. She would never be able to rent an apartment to keep her 5 servals and was left with no choice but to try and find them a new home. After careful consideration, we decided that we were able to rescue the 5 servals and immediately went into action. All the servals currently at the sanctuary live alone, which they prefer as they are solitary by nature. So in order to house these 5 servals in one enclosure, we had to get creative. We joined 2 existing enclosures together, which made one huge 3,000 square foot space that the servals could roam around in and enjoy. On top of joining the enclosures together, we added platforms, den boxes, hideaway areas, and we were told that they had a waterfall as kittens and loved it, so we also added a pool. We arrived in New York, just north of Albany, to a typical residential neighborhood. The 5 servals had been kept in the basement of the house, which had been converted into a living room, and except for a few escapes over the years, including an incident where one of the owners was bit and in the hospital for a week, they'd never spent any time outside. There were 4 males, Santino, Doodles, Zoul, and Zimba, and 1 female, Zouletta. All 5 had been declawed and are between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. All the servals except for Doodles are related and had been purchased from a pet store in Latham, New York. Doodles was added to the serval pack at a later date and ironically belonged to a man in Florida whose wife told him to choose between her and the cat. It was kind of a bizarre experience to walk into the basement and see the 5 servals lounging in front of the fire, by the TV, and on top of the hot tub. But most of all, it was just sad to see these 5 wildcats in such cramped, unnatural conditions. The owners obviously loved the cats and had planned on them being a part of their life. They had constructed a caged area with a drain in the floor so that they could clean more easily and shut them off into the area when they had company or weren't in the house. The cats were not living in filthy conditions, and it was obvious they had been fed as they all looked overweight. The owners recounted stories of them playing on the pool tables and with their air hockey game, but it didn't change the fact that their actions had led to the cats living on concrete in these dungeon-like settings for over a decade. Of course, life has lots of surprises and circumstances change. The owners are now unable to afford or house the servals any longer. So we began the rescue mission. With the help of the owners, we managed to get 4 of the 5 servals into the carriers quite easily, but Doodles wasn't impressed with these strangers invading his territory and wouldn't go into the carrier even after we tried using food to lure him in, so he had to be netted. With all 5 servals safely loaded into the BCR van and the last tearful goodbyes said, we began our long drive back to Tampa. We drove straight through the night and over 20 hours later arrived back at the sanctuary. Staff members were waiting to help unload the cats. We weighed all of the servals on the way to their new enclosure. They weighed between 31 and 42 pounds. Ideally, they should have weighed between 20 and 30 pounds. We lined the carriers up and prepared them so we could simply unlatch the doors when we were out of the enclosure. Santino, easily recognizable with his old injury of a broken ear, was the first to emerge from the carriers and explore. One by one, the other servals finally began to follow his lead and introduce themselves to the outside world and their new home. The only way we can continue to rescue cats in need is through your support. Stay tuned for future updates on all 6 servals and how they're adapting to life at Big Cat Rescue. You can help us change the way people treat big cats by texting the word TIGER to 20222.